1st of September 1939, at dawn, the Germans crossed into our territory. German Air Force and regular army unexpectedly invaded Polish territory without a declaration of hostilities. In the early morning, the German airplanes attacked a number of towns all over Poland.
September 1st, 1939, a day that marked the beginning of immense suffering. The Nazis, under the command of Adolf Hitler, launched their assault on Poland. They employed blitzkrieg tactics, a devastating and swift military strategy. This marked the beginning of a global conflict, a war that would engulf the world. For 6 long years, the fighting raged on. From the beaches of Normandy to the frozen wastelands of Russia, millions fought and perished. And it all began with that fateful invasion of Poland. The Polish forces, despite their courage, were overwhelmed. They fought valiantly, but they were outmatched, outgunned, and outmaneuvered. It was a tragedy, a dark chapter in human history. But it's a story that must be told to remember the horrors of war and the sacrifices made by those who fought for freedom. So prepare yourself as we delve into the German invasion of Poland, the event that plunged the world into darkness. And remember, this is a story that must never be forgotten. Now, let's talk about this blitzkrieg business. Imagine a swarm of angry wasps all buzzing around and stinging everything in sight. That's basically what the Germans did to Poland. They hit them hard and fast using tanks, planes and trucks in a way that nobody had ever seen before. It was all about speed and surprise.
The German army, or Wehrmacht as we like to call ourselves, would smash through enemy lines with our tanks, then fan out and cause chaos. The Luftwaffe, our air force, would rain down bombs from above, softening up targets and generally making life miserable for the Poles. And to top it off, we were masters of communication. We used radios to coordinate our attacks, which meant we could react to changing situations much faster than our enemies. It was a deadly combination, and it caught the Poles completely off guard.
Now, I'm not saying the Poles just rolled over and surrendered. They fought like lions. But they were up against it from the start. Their army was smaller, their equipment was outdated, and they just couldn't match the German war machine. While often characterized as using cavalry against tanks, the Polish cavalry did achieve some tactical successes, primarily using their mobility to engage German infantry and disrupt supply lines in several skirmishes. It was a testament to their bravery, even if it only slowed the German advance.
The Polish Air Force, while outnumbered, also put up a good fight. We even managed to shoot down a few German planes, which must have given us a bit of satisfaction. But in the end, it was a losing battle. The Germans were just too strong.
Let's talk numbers for a moment, shall we? Because when you look at the cold, hard facts, it's a wonder the Poles lasted as long as they did. The Germans had almost twice as many soldiers, nearly 3 times as many tanks, and more than double the number of aircraft. And it wasn't just about quantity, mind you. German equipment was generally superior as well. Their tanks, like the Panzer III and IV, were faster, better armed, and had thicker armor than their Polish counterparts. However, these advanced models only made up around 10% of the German armored forces. The bulk of their units consisted of Panzer I and II tanks, along with other, lighter vehicles, which were used in much greater numbers. And don't even get me started on the Luftwaffe's Stuka dive bombers. Those things were terrifying. The Poles, on the other hand, were stuck with outdated tanks and planes. They even had to rely on horses for transport in some cases. It was a recipe for disaster. Westerplatte and Warsaw, beacons of Polish resistance. Despite the odds stacked against them, the Poles fought with incredible courage and determination. 2 battles in particular stand out as symbols of their resistance: the Battle of Westerplatte and the Siege of Warsaw.
Westerplatte was a small Polish military outpost near the city of Danzig. When the Germans attacked on September 1st, a small garrison of Polish soldiers held out for 7 long days, repelling repeated assaults. They eventually surrendered, but not before inflicting heavy casualties on the enemy. Their bravery became a rallying cry for the Polish people.
Then there was Warsaw. the Polish capital, the Germans surrounded the city and subjected it to a brutal bombardment. The Polish army, along with civilian volunteers, fought street by street, house by house. They held out for 3 weeks, enduring unimaginable hardship before finally being forced to surrender. The Bzura Pocket, a desperate and costly gamble. While Westerplatte and Warsaw became symbols of Polish tenacity, the Battle of Bzura, also known as the Battle of the Border, showcased the strategic complexities and tragic losses of the campaign. This large-scale engagement west of Warsaw saw the Polish army launch a counter-offensive against the advancing Germans. Initially successful, the Poles managed to push back elements of the German Eighth Army, momentarily disrupting the enemy's timetable. However, the Germans, with their superior mobility and firepower, regrouped and encircled the Polish forces, creating what became known as the Bzura Pocket. Trapped and facing overwhelming odds, the Polish army fought valiantly but suffered heavy casualties. While some units managed to break out of the encirclement, the battle effectively marked the end of large-scale Polish resistance in the west. The Bzura Pocket stands as a testament to the courage and fighting spirit of the Polish soldier, even in the face of insurmountable odds. A nation in chains, the crushing grip of Nazi occupation. With the fall of Warsaw on October 6, 1939, Poland's fate was sealed. The country was carved up between Germany and the Soviet Union, who had invaded from the east on September 17th. The Nazis wasted no time in imposing their brutal regime.
Poland became a testing ground for their racial ideology. Jews deemed undesirables were rounded up and herded into ghettos. Polish intellectuals, artists, and leaders were targeted for elimination. The country was systematically looted of its resources, its people subjected to forced labor and unspeakable atrocities.
The phoenix rises, the Polish resistance ignites. Despite the darkness that had descended upon their homeland, the Polish spirit refused to be broken. Even as the Nazis attempted to crush all opposition, a resistance movement began to emerge from the ashes.
Operating under the noses of the Gestapo, the Polish underground state took shape. This remarkable organization, loyal to the Polish government in exile, established a shadow government, ran intelligence networks, and coordinated acts of sabotage and resistance.
The Home Army, the military arm of the underground state, grew in strength, carrying out daring raids and preparing for the day when they could rise up against their oppressors. The Polish people, though occupied, never surrendered their hope for freedom.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
A world at war. Global reactions to the invasion. The German invasion of Poland sent shockwaves across the globe. For years, the world had watched with growing alarm as Hitler's Germany became increasingly aggressive. But the invasion of Poland marked a turning point. On September 3, 1939, Great Britain and France, bound by treaties to defend Poland's independence, declared war on Germany. The Second World War had begun. While the initial response from the Western Allies was limited, the invasion galvanized global opinion against Nazi aggression. The world watched in horror as the full extent of Nazi brutality became apparent. The invasion of Poland served as a stark warning of the dangers of appeasement and the importance of standing up to tyranny. Echoes of history. The invasion's lasting significance. The German invasion of Poland was a watershed moment in human history. It marked the beginning of the deadliest conflict the world had ever seen. A war that would claim the lives of tens of millions and leave an indelible scar on the human psyche. The invasion also highlighted the devastating consequences of unchecked aggression and the dangers of totalitarian ideologies. The world learned a hard lesson about the importance of international cooperation and the need to stand up to bullies regardless of the cost.